Hello and welcome to this video. We are right now located in the Jflysim Boeing 727. And very nice aircraft. We know this is an older version that was originally made for X-Plane 10, so it is limited, but I'm happy that it is working, and I actually got it. That's one thing that I really feel is annoying, that sometimes projects, when a newer version is released, after some given time, it's like, let's say that they just say, yeah, now we just want some more money, and then they just remove the old files, and then you have to buy the new project. And from my perspective, as a customer, what I have bought is what I should be able to use, no matter what. So that's one thing, but I demonstrate this project because I really like this aircraft, even though it's not one of those that I have been flying the most after I got the 737-200, even though that project is no longer available in my store. So that's why I was picking with it, because I actually like the 737 as well as this particular aircraft, and wanted to demonstrate it, because even though it's not the latest, it has quite some potential. Let's open the GPS, and in here you can see we can set it up. We are right now here at La Palma, and we can do a direct. We are not going to fly to Lanzarote. We are going to fly to Tenerife. So it's not going to be too long of a flight here. But still you get a nice inside of the main aircraft. And do note, it's old school, but you can use the GPS in here. We got a very weight and balance, and it's pretty neat because it's actually setting up the main speeds. As you can see, they move for the V1 and for the flaps, I guess. Okay, we're gonna be flaps 15 departure, and you can see here if you're gonna land, set it to full, and then it would show by the current weight of the aircraft from the weight configuration here. You can see if I lower it, you can see that it is going down. Here we go. As well as for the takeoff. So that's a pretty nice option. In here you can set it for cold and dark, and engines running. We have the engines running. And the distance of the view, sound volume, interior and exterior, that we can set as we like. Time set for Zulu time, about FMC into the window, we would like that. Hide the yoke, weighted kilos, and pushback option. And here you can install the SIVA if you buy the SIVA for the navigation. Okay, and I'm gonna use my nifty little autopilot project here instead of using what's in the aircraft, because this makes it a lot easier for me to set things up. And now we would start our taxiing here so we can get the show on the road. Really here is they are very noisy. But that's how it was back in the days of those old aircrafts here. And also why we can say one thing is for the how much fuel that we burn. Another story is yeah, it is how noisy it is and how much fuel it burns, because it really burns quite some fuel. It's not so economic as we have today. It's more economic for the aircraft. Let's see here. And one thing to note here is that it is actually very powerful, the engines. They are. The other day I actually had to fly with only one engine, and the aircraft really flied well, even though normally it has 3 engines, and then it was down to 1. It was a left-hand engine, and it really did a nice job. It was very nice because the climb very steadily towards the safe altitude that we would get to before we would initiate our descent to safety landing. One thing to note here is that turning the aircraft is a bit tricky. As you can see, it's not the most easy part, but it makes it more realistic that it can't just turn in no time. Because there is a limit for how much the nose wheel actually is capable of turning the aircraft. So that's very nice. And now we are lined up here, and then we would start our takeoff roll here. One thing to be careful about here is that we don't have the limiter for the N1, so you can burn the engines if you just set it for full thrust for too long. Then you would fry the engines.
80 knots.
Here we go. Co-pilot. It's telling us the airspeed. And
V1, rotate.
Rotating. There we go. Press and climb, gear up. You really see that it's climbing pretty nicely here. Of course, everything is relative, and we have not set the highest power setting here. You can get a bit more thrust here, and then the aircraft would fly normally nicely. And right now I actually can, now I don't have my hand on the joystick, and you actually see how nice it is flying. And that's another thing, that it is really nice to hand fly this aircraft. It really is. It's a joy to hand fly. And I really appreciate when I can hand fly an aircraft without feeling that it is too wobbling or anything like that. It's a joy. Let's get retracted flaps so we can start accelerating, and there you see now it really accelerates, basically because we get it up to flaps 5, and then we can get it all the way up. And let's use my autopilot project here to fly towards Tenerife. Got it set here, and I can actually open the GPS here, and I could actually go in and say flight plan here. I can take this and say activate the leg, and then the aircraft will take from our current position, and it just said what we should set the course for. Procedures, select approach. Just try to set it up for an ILS for runway 07. Test 1, test 2, test 1. You can just say activate, because it is actually we are going to fly to. And then we can zoom out and we get reference here. So that's one of the nice things, that we can fly and have this nice GPS here. Even though I can't remember if it actually was me that modified it to have this GPS. I apologize, I can't remember that, but I feel it's a great help. And then together with my autopilot project, it's a cheat, yes. But it makes it a lot more easy to operate the aircraft. And again, we are different people. Some really would like it to be the real deal, and others find it perfectly fine that we have some shortcuts, where you can say I'm personally a bit in between. Where I really like that some things is very simulated, like you can do procedures, you can do a lot of things, even though you have to remember that those procedures is only to make life easier for air traffic control, because in reality all those long sits and stars is often not used, basically to make your flight time shorter, as the shortest flight time as possible. But you have to remember that sits and stars is more a general workload. It would lower the workload for air traffic controllers, so you have more standard procedures that you can follow, so it gives less pressure for air traffic controller. So that's something to know. And now we are at our cruising altitude here, 10,000 feet, and we already see Tenerife here straight ahead, and should reach it in around 9 minutes, as the GPS say. But let's see, because we also have to slow down and get ready for the main approach here. into Tenerife Sur, René Sofia, as far as I remember. But when you first get those things running here by my autopilot project and the GPS, you have a nice base of flying, because right now you are actually in an airliner and you actually have the ability, if you are a person that wants a bit more complexity or just something that is more like the aircraft type that you like instead of just the default aircraft. This is a nice mix in between, and one thing that I would point out for this developer is actually the nice feature here for the adjustment of the heading and the chords, and in general the knobs. As you can see, I really like the way that this developer actually do the things here. It is so nice, and something that I like, instead of some add-ons where it is small click spots and you barely move the knobs, because in reality, depending on the aircraft and such, the autopilot is very sensitive to the adjustments, especially if you are used to flying 737 or such. You would see that the pilot nearly shouldn't move the knob that much to get from a low altitude to a high altitude. So they, when they actually fine tune, they sometimes uh, move it a bit in both directions in order to get the exact number they need, depending on aircraft type, of course. But you can say for Airbus it's easier that you can just set it for 1,000 feet at a time, and that's one thing I would say that we should give Airbus credit for, an option to select whole 1,000, because often that's what you would use. Besides, if you are flying to the, is it Asia or Russia or where it is, where they would switch from feet to meters, and then of course you might need the, the odd numbers there, even odd numbers, how you would say it. But if it just was in general, it would be quite easy, because then it would only be whole thousands or 500 at a time. That's the most commonly used for um, for jets, you can say, and such in general. Um, of course, when you should get down to minimum altitude, it could be 1,800 feet or something like that. That's of course, but in general, when you are in flight and such, it might not be that much you are using it. Okay, let's get down to 5,000 as stated. It's at 5,500, but let's go down here, and now we're just at idle thrust, so it can slowly slow down. You can try to extend the speed brakes, as you can see here. It extends and it works pretty effectively in the aircraft. But there are still no aircraft that is actually capable, from my knowledge, I should say, like the MD-80s. It was said that those aircraft was actually the aircraft that could use the most speed brakes in air in mid-flight, and you really could feel it. Could really feel when they used the speed brake in the MD-80. It was like a huge guy that was just taking in the tail of the aircraft and trying to slow it down, or how I should say, because it really works effectively. Okay, getting closer here. So we can zoom in here on our main procedure here. Go to flight plan C. Because I actually don't have the sits and starts for the airport, and that's one of the nice things about using the GPS, because it actually can give you a short reference. As you could see when we loaded it up, it can give you a reference of how it will look, and that's very nice and handy if you don't want to spend all those money on sits on the nav data, I should say, sorry, and use the current sits and stars. So it is, as I say, I try to get out to as many as possible of potential customers and try to give them an insight in how they can use the add-on and what they can use it for, because sometimes it seems that people just say, well, this is just too complex or something like that. I don't got the time for doing it, and they are overwhelmed by how it actually is to operate. Okay, so now let's go in and say a shortcut here. Oh, that was not my intention. Yep, activate. And now you can see that we would actually fly out here instead, and then we would start our main approach instead. But we would need to descend further now in order to do what we what we need to do, and we also have to decelerate now, else the airspeed would get too high for the main procedure. But again, let's see. We are coming in a bit in a not that great angle, so we can switch over to heading mode now. Then I would stay in heading mode because I can go in here and say that. Oh, I did it again. Sorry. I can go in here and say that we want to fly direct to it in a moment when we actually get more parallel with the runway, because then we can make the left-hand turn. This is a nice way to actually get the aircraft slowed down, and that's why I was saying about the procedures, because in reality you can get vectors and such, and you often do it, but it is always nice that you actually have the features that you actually have in the real aircraft. Okay, now we're just gonna go in here and say we want to do as we was intending to. So go back to GPS mode here, and the aircraft makes some kind of a odd movement here. Then we have to force it a bit here. Seems that the autopilot actually did not like what we had in mind here. Now we're down to 2,000 feet. And let's not get too slow here. And we can see that we are still slowing down here, and that's not our main intention here. So we are just gonna release those spoilers. And now we are flying in as we should. And we can try once more to see if we actually can get it to activate it and fly it as expected. Okay. Don't know why it actually do this odd behavior, but that might just be one of the explained quirkiness that we are used to. Because now you can see it actually seems to have intercepted the next waypoint. Probably a limitation inexplained because okay. It seems that the GPS system isn't that great in that perspective. Because in reality, I would not expect the aircraft to have this kind of behavior. Because I'm nearly certain it's not because of the aircraft. It is because of the input that the GPS is giving it. Because I actually have had problems with other add-on aircraft as well, where the autopilot, for some reason, here in this latest version of X-Plane, I have noticed that it has been introduced more or less. Can't remember from the past. I just noted it in a few aircrafts that it had an odd behavior, where it actually, for some reason, seems that the autopilot was active and somehow it wasn't really active. So, yeah. And that's just some of the irritating things when things like that happens. Even though we can say that's what a pilot should be prepared for, that the aircraft do not do as we would have expected. We nearly did an DME arc. Not that we did, but it could look like a bit. I actually have done a video about the DME arc. If you are interested, you can find it on my YouTube channel as well, because it is actually in there. My DME arc, how it was done and all that stuff. Okay, so let's get the aircraft slowed down here and get some flaps in and get some landing gear down. And do note that the landing gear takes quite some time to get down. Here we go, 1 down, 2 down, 3 down, 3 green. And it's nice to see, because it makes it a bit more realistic, that it's not just that the boom, then the wheels are down. Because that's not how it is in reality either. Okay, and now we are slowing down here for our landing and getting some flaps. And now we can take our nifty little V-speed card here and say it's for landing, reference 126 knots. 126, 1974, there we go. And that's our target touchdown speed. And here we go. The aircraft slows down now to around 140, as you can see. And we keep extending. And now we should pay attention here, because we're getting closer to 130. And now we have full flaps. And as you can see, it flies very well. You would feel more and more of a gentle effect from the wings as you get lower and lower in airspeed. That it has this tendency of wobbling a bit from left to right and such. It makes it quite realistic that you have this kind of feel that the aircraft actually gets lower and lower and slower, and actually is just on the edge of being capable of remaining in the air. Okay, and here we go. We are still nice on the airspeed side. In a moment we would bleed off a bit more speed. We are down to 128, I would guess. But it's very nice to head fly, as you can see. Really a joy. Now we can idle throttle and then just slowly get the aircraft down. There we go. And then don't just push the nose wheel. There we go. Very nice and gentle. And we actually has thrust reversers active. And the spoilers is deployed. And we get down to around 60 knots, and we can manually brake now to decelerate the last bit here. And then we actually arrived here at Tenerife Sur Airport. And then it was pretty much the flight. And as you can see, I know we had a few problems with the autopilot and GPS, and I can't set a finger on right now because I would need some more testing in order to try to find out what it might be, because I have to admit that I haven't been doing testing recently, so I am a bit out of sync with the main simulator and issues and those things. But that's one of the main good things about being a tester as well. It is that you keep yourself updated with what is going on for the simulator and such, because you talk to other testers and you talk to other people, developers and such, and you keep up to date, and they know about the issues and know some workarounds and those nice things to know. And that's great. But other than that, hopefully you saw an aircraft that is doing what you expect it to, besides the issue with the GPS and autopilot. But when I first set heading mode and those things, the aircraft is back on track. So it is for safe operation, you can say. It is safely to fly the aircraft without problems. And there we just have the warning that we were giving too much throttle. And now we can just move on here, up there. And there we got it, the 727. Let's just shut down the engine so we can get outside again. I know I have not turned on the APU. Do note that the APU is over here, ground power unit, auxiliary power unit is over here, and other important things for the engine and such is over here by the engineer panel station. But there we got it, the 727. Hope you enjoyed it and you got an insight of the main 727 project that I could recommend. I know it's a more old style school aircraft and all those things, and you could fly from BUR to BUR stations and such. It is capable of doing that, of course, as well as the ILS. Even it is this old kind of style of aircraft. Do not forget it. You can do the most, and especially if you use the GPS together with it. It would work very, very nicely. Of course, if you had the GCN 750 or such, it would be even better. I can't say because I I don't have that project, even though I really would like it, and I know from Aerobask projects where they actually have implemented that part of such navigation into a particular aircraft. That was really something that I liked a lot, even though it really has its limitation because you really need the old style of X-Plane 10 data in order to work. That's a side note for that project. Sorry, for that company. Can't say for the later versions, but those that actually was made for X-Plane 10 and such at that time, like the what is this called, the Victory something like that. I can't remember, but it is a small jet that they have made in the past. But that was it for now. Thank you for watching and hope to see you again soon. Bye bye.